Hello, guys. It's been less than 24 hours since I recorded the last one, but I'm doing this one a little earlier than I said I would in the update video because I'm recording this before the What If Deku, who was a monster from Evolved, was the last part was put out. But this is What If Deku was a singer. Sorry if you hear a little bit of an echo. I'm currently in a room with no echo cancellation thingies. Okay, I'm back. I had an emergency to really take care of. But this is What If Deku was a singer? So Deku's not being born in Japan. Instead, he's being born in America, where he grew up listening to hip hop and rock and roll. Not all this heavy metal or rap sort of hip hop. It's the classic hip hop and rock and roll. He listened to Elvis. He'd listened to Papa Roach. He'd listened to Disturbed, Guns N' Roses. And when pop got more fame than rock and roll normally did, he stopped listening to all the new stuff and started listening to the old stuff again. And then he wanted to write his own music. So he started to write his own music, and he got people together to play with him. He got his childhood friend Bakugo to be the drummer, and he got a few other people to be the guitar, and what else he needs. Sorry. But he played in back alley bars and little diners until one day and he's currently 13 right now. One day, this guy walks up to him and says, "Can I scout you for a record?" And Izuku says, "Sure. Let me ask them first." He asks the band. Oh, and Bakugo, yes, Bakugo is female in this. Everybody can already tell what the ship is. But he asks the band, and the band says, "Sure." So Deku walks up to the guy and says, "Can you give me your contact information? Because I don't want to be tricked like some people have been in the past." And this guy says, "Sure." He hands him a card. 3 days later, after searching him up and looking for him everywhere, and he finds that he's produced for big name bands. And the guy said, and he calls him up and says to the guy, "I'll take your offer and I'll come with a band." And in this What If, Disturbed is still a big time band, but the songs that I'm going to play for you in this alternate universe, Izuku created, okay? But they're actually created by Disturbed. I think I have some from Daddy Fat Snaps on YouTube. He's a really good person, really good artist. Rustage is a really good artist that I have on there. Divide is a really good artist that I have on there. I'll, I will link the playlist that I made in the description for songs that I'm going to be playing throughout this What If. So, well, he when the day comes, this is a week later, when the day comes, he walks to the record label area and the band's already there. So they walk into the sound booth and they start playing. And I'll switch the song now. And after the song is done, the producer looks back into the studio and just sees one teardrop rolling down his Izuku's face. And yes, I'm gonna call Bakugo Kachan. And Kachan runs up to him and gives him a big hug. I'm still on the fence of what his quirk is gonna be in this one, but when I decide, I'm gonna make it a surprise. So, hmm. So, yeah, I'm gonna do that. The producer feels the emotion and the drive to produce the music from Izuku and immediately says, no matter what, I'm going to make you a star. Without turning on the mic, without anything. And then he walks into the booth. Instead of turning on the mic or doing anything, he walks into the booth and says to them, I promise you, I won't stop until you are stars. And you've made history. And they all start cheering except Izuku, who's just smiling now, happy. And the producer says, I'm going to get that uploaded. What is the face of this band? Because just uploading some random voice without a face, it's not going to be any good. And then Izuku transforms his face into this. And everybody says, that's the face of our band. And I'm not going to try to make a name for this band. I want you guys to do it. So, Izuku, he walks home, and Kachan follows him for a little bit. And roughly around 10 minutes away from his home, Kachan breaks off and goes into hers, saying bye to Izuku, who just waves and walks home. Kachan walks into her house, and Mitsuki greets her and asks how was the recording. And she said that it was the song, and I don't know if he's going to be okay tomorrow. And Mitsuki's eyes widen and asks, what did he look like when he left? And she said he looked emotionless when he left me here. So I'm going to call him later just to make sure nothing's happened. So we go back to Izuku, who's currently walking in through his front door into his apartment, flopping on his couch and looking at his ceiling. Then this is all without words. He's not been speaking. He's mute unless he's behind a microphone or he's talking to someone. He doesn't make a sound when it's anywhere else except in front of someone who's asking him questions or talking to him directly, or when he's in front of a microphone. So he walks into his bathroom, grabs his knife, and starts cutting himself. I'm going to make this a little dark. But 30 minutes later, after the sensation of pain goes away, he gets a call on his phone. He answers it and says, hello, Izuku Midoriya speaking, in a emotionless tone, because he doesn't look at the name unless he's in a good mood. So I didn't know who's calling. And Kachan, who immediately knew what was going on, said, Izuku, I'm coming over. So Mitsuki drove Kachan over to Izuku's house, and she banged on the door to let her in, because this has happened before. And he finally opened the door. She walked in and immediately pulled up his sleeve and started crying. Then he walks into his room, shuts the door, and lays on his bed. And without him noticing, Kachan walks in to his room and hugs him, then falls asleep, hugging him. The next day, Kachan wakes up. She sees that she's still hugging him and starts blushing. So she immediately walks out of his room, and this has happened on multiple occasions too, where she knows his entire layout, knows where everything is, and she sometimes has to go buy food for him. So she walks out of his room and starts making him breakfast. And 3 minutes later, he wakes up to the smell of cooking food. He jumps up like nothing happened yesterday and runs out like the energetic, normal person he is, and starts being the energetic, normal little kid he normally acts like. And when Kachan sees this, she starts giggling like a crazy person. So she gives him his breakfast and they go on with their day. Until that night when they go to the diner where they normally play and they play another song. So, while he sang that, he had a mask on. The mask with this face on it. Or it looks like that, if you want to see the full mask. And yes, he is shirtless when he's singing. But the downside to what his quirk is gonna be is whenever he's talking, he has to relive memories that are super painful. So, when he's talking, when he's singing, when he puts any emotion into words, he has to relive super painful memories. So that's why he has the side effect of depression after he sings. So they finish singing the songs for the day. They sing a total of 10, and this place is completely packed because they go there to feel, to understand, and notice what other people are feeling. Because one of the quirks for one of the people who play is that with their music, they can understand how everybody in the area feels. They're an empath, but only when they're playing music. When they're talking and being social, nothing happens. So this person unknowingly always channels Deku and Kachan's emotions, or Izuku's and Kachan's emotions. Izuku's emotion of, I feel like I'm the worst, I can't do anything right. That's after he sings, and he's done singing. But while he sings, he has the emotion of, I can do anything I want. I can do whatever I want. I have the power to do what I want. And when Kachan, I need a female name for Bakugo because I'm going to get tired of calling her Kachan. But whenever she's playing, she has the emotion of, I'm a hero and I want to help people. And this is how I can do it easily right this second. And this is how I'm going to save up to do it later. So, yeah, I'm probably going to go with that quirk. If anybody has seen the light magic from Black Clover, Deku gets light manipulation. So he can make an illusion of this face. So what he really has on is a mask, a semi-mask. It's a hood without a sweater or jacket or whatever you want to call it. Sweatshirt. Without a sweatshirt. Looks ripped, but it has complete darkness. So he has red eyes and a grinning mouth like that. And the only thing that's bad about this quirk is it makes him relive images and memories that he doesn't want to relive. So they finish up, and the empath and the backlash from Izuku's quirk takes hold. Or the empath ends and the backlash from Izuku's quirk takes hold. And Izuku becomes depressed again. And if anybody knows who Naruto is, and you guys probably do because you search what ifs all day like I do sometimes. If you guys know who Naruto is, you know that. I'm sorry I dropped you guys again. You know that Naruto, the only way to counteract the negative feelings from everybody for the QB, has to have people in his life that care for him. Old Man Hokage, Kakashi Sensei, Iruka Sensei, people who own the ramen stand, Ichiraku people. He needs people like them in his life. But Izuku is blind to that. Right now, at least. He doesn't see that his band will support him. Sorry, I have to make lunch for myself. But he doesn't see that the band is willing to support him in his endeavors and his life. And it has been 3 years since they've started the band. So Izuku started walking home again. And Kachan walked with him until they got to her house. Which then she says, I have something for you. Come with me. And he's still in the emotionless state right now because of the images he's seen. And so she basically drags him into her house. And it's currently pitch black because they have all the lights off. And via habit, because there's a pitch black area, the face shows up via habit, and it's in front of his face. And the people who don't know he's that singer get freaked out that all of a sudden this face showed up on Izuku. I'm gonna say that there's a vigilante running around with that face as a mask, but not actually that face. So one of them thinks that it's the vigilante and goes completely quiet. You can't even. They're freaking out, so they start breathing a little heavily. And then Akatsuki flips the lights on, and everybody yells, "Surprise!" because it's the 3rd birthday of the band. The band's there, everybody's there. And it's not a happy birthday to the band, it's a thank you to Izuku. And Izuku's completely confused on why they're saying thank you. He says, "What did I do? I can't do anything right." And he starts doubting himself, and everybody looks at him like he's crazy. And then he gets a warm, embracing hug from Mitsuki and Kachan. And then all of a sudden he falls asleep. Like, the backlash from the quirk took its toll on him, and it needs to run its course. So everybody's partying, having fun, and then an hour later, everybody's like, "We might just come back in the morning." And Izuku wakes up on the couch, and he's in that hyperactive child state before the songs and when they play. And everybody starts having fun again because Izuku's awake, the main person there, and the band walks up to Izuku, gives him a giant hug, and says thank you. And Izuku's playing dumb, basically playing dumb. They think he's playing dumb, but he says he doesn't know why they're thanking him. It's they're the reason that they're that popular, and he's just the face of the band. And they go, no, we wouldn't have been a band without you. So I'll be right back. It's gonna be a split second for you, but like maybe 10-20 minutes for me. Burb. So around an hour and a half after the party, Mitsuki and Kachan say, stay here tonight because it's too late for you to go to your apartment. So he agrees, and he sleeps over that night. A huge time skip later of, since they're 13, 4 years. The effects of his quirk have diminished very slightly, but they have diminished because the actual negative effect is he has to relive every single image of his life. So he sees all the way up to his birth till now. So he's currently 17, and he sees every horrid thing that he has in his past and the good things that have happened. So it's been 4 years of them underneath this how should I say this? Under this, I forget the name of what they do, but under this person, and he asks them, do you want to go hop the pond? And they ask him, what do you mean hop the pond? And he says, do you want to go to Japan and the Eastern continent and play music there? And they go, yeah, we kind of do. But then Izuku and Kachan both say, we want to do that in a year because we're going to start a UA in a year. We want to show them that we are where we are for a reason. So he says, good idea, good idea, good idea. But why don't we introduce you over there by releasing your music over there and see how they react? And then say, if sales reach and say to the people over here that there's a chance that that you guys are gonna go east and share your stories. Because this band doesn't call them songs, they call them stories. And so this band, I'm thinking of a name. Yeah, I'm gonna reference a different anime. The name of the band is called Fairy Tail. The name of the band is called Fairy Tail. And the only person who wears a mask is Izuku. Kachan still has her explosion quirk, obviously. But the only person who wears a mask is Izuku, and everybody asks him when they do the interview, why does he wear a mask? And Izuku says, because my real face is hideous. It's not the face I want to show. My mask is the face I want to show to you. It's the perfect symbolization of who I am. Normally, everybody thinks perfect face, perfect person. No. His life is so messed up that he thinks his own face, which he doesn't look like Izuku. He looks like Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen when he's 17. But he wears the disturbed mask. He said, and I'm gonna say what he says every time. My life is so messed up that my face is hideous when I don't wear a mask. And people have asked him to take the mask off, and he says, okay, but it's your fault if you get scarred. And he takes it off, and he shows them the face of Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen, and everybody's like, all the girls get nosebleeds when they see it, and all the guys are like, dude, you look perfectly fine. And he goes, no, I'm absolutely hideous. Because his mental state's completely messed up from all the times he's had to relive what he's seen in his life. So, uh, um, hmm. So they're so it's been 3 years since the party. So the band's now 6 years old. No, 4 years since the party. The band's now 7 years old, and they're going to a concert. And the concert's name is 10,000 Fists. And everybody's confused on why the concert's named. And they saw how many people or how many tickets there are, and it's exactly, since there's 5 members in the band, 9,995. And the concert's being recorded. The concert's being recorded. It's not being broadcasted because that's via request that this concert not be broadcasted. And Izuku, he walks up on stage and says, with his mask off, this band has been together for 7 years. This is the exact day of the year we started singing in a small town diner, which he points behind him, and they're singing in front of the small town diner. And they're in such a weird location that he paid all out of pocket to make this small town diner or uh, have a bigger parking lot. So he paid a lot of money out of pocket, but he's a millionaire at this point. He paid a lot of money out of pocket to basically upgrade this diner and keep this diner afloat, because this diner was going out of business. So he bought the diner, and he told the cooks that no matter what, this diner is going to stay alive. So uh, he's playing his 7th anniversary concert, and he says, and this is going to be the last song that he plays. Give me a second. So while this song is playing, they uh, they continue playing, obviously, and while this song is playing, Deku raises his fist in the air. And then the few people who won free ticket. Hold on 1 second. And he had a few people. He basically bribed a few people in the audience to raise their fist into the air when they see him raise his fist. And when they agreed and signed a contract to do so, and they would be paid and have a free ticket into the concert if they do so. So like 10, 20 people were staged around the area to raise their fist into the air when he saw him raise his fist into the air. There's jumbotrons, there's everything around. So everybody, all 9,995 people will see it and hear it. So when he raised his fist, all 20 of them simultaneously raised their fists, and everybody was like, oh, we gotta raise our fists too, because these random people are doing it too. So every single one of the 9,995 people in the audience started raising their fists. And when the song ended, the band also raised their fists. And Izuku said, in 1 year's time, we are going to Japan. In 1 year's time, we are going to become heroes. And then he gave a speech about how not always being a hero is actually being a hero. Then he gave the same speech Stain did, but without any aggression. He said that most heroes that you see out on the streets go for fame and fortune. But there are some heroes, and a picture of All Might shows up, go for saving people. And then there are some heroes who just become heroes to become heroes. Those are the heroes that you want to support. Then he shows the pictures of the little time heroes that nobody knows about, like, well, everybody knows about Eraserhead, but he shows Eraserhead, then a few others that pretty much nobody knows about and nobody follows. And he says these are some of the heroes that show up when they're not needed and ask to help. And then he says, my life has been hell. And then the camera zooms on his face, and he says, this face shows what my life has looked like. This face shows you how disgusting life can be. And then he pulls off his mask, and he says, well, hood, and he says, this face I was born with. I hate my face. Then he puts the hood back on and says, this face is the true me. Sometimes masks don't show the real you, and sometimes the mask is you. I have been singing for the last 7 years because I've wanted to get my story out there. And then he goes on a complete story of his life. He says, when I was 3, I activated my quirk and accidentally, without knowing it, killed 10 people. And then he says, when I was 4, I had a complete handle on my quirk until a villain attacked. And he turns around and he shows a big scar on his back. And he goes, "This is what happened when I used my quirk to defend myself." And then he turns back around and deactivates basically an illusion on his chest via the light magic. And he says, "This is what happened when the villain attacked me. My parents got in front of me," and this is going to sound like it's happened before in an anime, because it has. "My parents jumped in front of me, both of them, to save me. My parents didn't love each other anymore. I was in an abusive household. My parents hit each other. They argued. I didn't know that they still loved me. But they did. Every Christmas, I would get Santa presents. Every birthday, I would get presents from both of them. But they couldn't be in the same room with each other without being physical. So my parents divorced. And then one birthday, the villain attacked. And that was my 4th birthday. The anniversary of me killing people. And this villain was gunning for my quirk. This villain was the number 1 villain in the entire world. And the only reason why I survived was because of my quirk. Yes, quirkless people can't keep up with quirked people. But there's that 1 in a million person who can." And then he points his hand out into the middle of the crowd and says, and I know this is going to be a little weird, he says, "I know you're out there. And when you get into your costume, what do you feel?" And all of a sudden a puff of smoke in the middle of the stadium area or stage area happens, and he shows up next to Deku. And he says, "When I'm in the stands, I feel at the mercy of your song. When I'm behind my mask, I feel like I can do it. But I'm terrified." And then he raises his fist into the air like what Deku did and said, "I am quirkless. I'm the very first quirkless hero." And Deku says, "You saved my life." And then he goes, "Thank you." And that hero goes, "I was doing my job. There's no need to thank me. I am a very small hero because I don't want the praise. I don't, even now, if it wasn't in that contract that you made, that I signed." He goes, "Yeah, I kind of did a lot of research. I found who you were." A lot of research, by the way. "I found who you were. I specifically went up to you on the street and said, 'Do you know who I am?' And then now we're here. And everybody's hearing this conversation. And everybody's like, wait, he's been through hell and he's still the most popular singer in America." So an hour of him talking about how some heroes are fake and the governments and the hero society, it needs to go through their heroes and make sure that they're not fake, and what they're doing at home is what they show out on the street. And that's important. It's really important for later. So, after an hour, he goes, I have lived hell. I have been in the same situation as you guys. I felt powerless. And then he makes a giant image with his quirk and says, I've also felt strong. And then he makes two images next to him. And he points at one image and goes, I felt proud. And then he points to the other and he goes, I felt alone. I felt depressed because I am human. And then he looks at the hero and he says, you are human. Then he looks out in the crowd and says, villains are human. And everybody doesn't know where this is going, but he goes, villains are human. They're not monsters. Well, some of them may look like monsters, but they're human. They started out like you and me, but they went down the wrong path. Then he says, there's a villain in the stadium right now, and I request that he comes up on stage. This villain with giant handcuffs walks up on stage, and Izuku says, this villain right here robbed a bank. And he looks at the villain and goes, why did you rob the bank? And this has been going on for like 2 hours. And the villain finally says, after like 5 minutes of Izuku explaining reasons why he would rob a bank, the villain goes, because I have 3 kids that have cancer, my wife is sick, and I was laid off of my job. No matter where I went, I wasn't able to be hired. And Izuku said, I have a proposition for you. I'll pay for your children's therapy for one more chance in society for you. And his eyes widen. And Izuku says, I'll pay for all your medical bills, which is a lot of freaking money. I've seen them. Because I've been talking to people. I've seen your medical bills. And he goes, if you can show that you can become a hero from going from the wrong path to the right path and not seek out fame and fortune, I'll make sure your children and wife survive. I'll do everything in my power. And everybody sees this promise live in this concert. And then Izuku says, in 1 year's time, I'm going to UA. And then points at Kachan and goes, in 1 year's time, she's going to UA. We are going to become heroes. I don't want what happened to me to happen to anybody else. So that's why I'm becoming a hero. He walks up to her and says, why do you want to become a hero? And she starts stuttering and goes, because I don't want anything that happened to you to happen to anybody else, because you're like family to me. And he realizes how she feels and he goes, thank you. Thank you for helping. And then he looks at the right at the camera who's pointed at him, and he looks at it and points at it, and the camera zooms in, and he goes, thank you to all the heroes that are seeing this. The true heroes. Not the imposters that go just for money. No, I don't have enough time to identify all of you. I don't have time in my future hero career to get all of you out of the system. but I'm going to get a group together. While I'm doing hero work, they can help me be a better hero. To get all of you on the right track. Because I can't do everything alone. And he goes on a rant of how he needs help being a hero, and every hero needs help being a hero. Then he refers to a comic book. And yes, I'm going to refer to an actual comic book. He goes, Batman. He doesn't have an ability. And then someone yells out from the crowd and goes, his ability is being rich. And Izuku starts chuckling a little and goes, yeah, no, his ability is not being rich. His ability is to adapt. His ability is being human. Then he goes to the... Sorry about the background noise. I'm currently having to walk throughout my house. But he goes, then there's Superman. He got here. He was a god among men. He could do whatever the hell he wanted. But he saw what we are. We are fragile creatures that need protection. We are the diamonds in the rough. And when he met Batman, they did not agree. If anybody remembers the Batman vs. Superman comic? And like two people raised their fists in the air, screaming, yeah! Izuku obviously can see them because he has his light manipulation ability and he can see perfectly fine at night. But he's like, see, not everybody here is out of touch with what we used to be. Then he goes, 300 years ago, a person with a quirk was the outcast. Then he goes into basically a history lesson of 300 years ago, quirkless people were everywhere. It's like the Batman and Superman comics. When quirked people started to become heroes, there was one hero, and then he lost his life in a fight. I don't know, and he goes, I don't know if this actually happened, but he lost his life in a fight. Then two heroes popped up, stopped that villain. Then they lost their lives in a fight against villains. And then so on and so on until now there's a giant organization for heroes. Batman didn't make money off of heroism. He was considered a vigilante. He was a true hero. Because he didn't do it for the fame or money. And then he starts singing another song. I'm not going to play the entire song, even though that's a really good song. You guys need to watch it. Not watch it, listen to it. So, he sings that song, and after it, he explains what the song means. I don't know exactly what the song means. And then he says, that's all for this time. The next time you see us, we'll be in Japan. We'll be in Japan singing to get our stories across, to get our lives across, to show them that they are normal. Villains and heroes are not. and that this society is completely jacked up, and that we, as the normal people, need to vote to correct it. Because voting in hero society, masses control it, yeah. At least in America. But he walks off the stage, and then the building, whose lights were thought to be turned off, were not actually turned off. Izuku just used his quirk through the entire 5-hour concert. And he walked into the back and saw someone he never thought he would see. He walked into the back and saw All Might. And Izuku just brushed him off. And All Might went up to him in the back and said, "You are right. I will recommend you and her," and points at Kachan and says, "I will recommend you two for UA." And Izuku says, "No need. I want to take the entrance exams." And All Might looks at him like he's crazy. And he goes, "What? I've decided ever since I was little, since my parents were killed, that I would prove whenever I did something. I'd prove myself." And All Might goes, "Okay. But just know, in a year, I'm going to be teaching at UA." And Izuku says, "Okay, I'll keep that in mind." So 6 months pass, and he's currently looking for a house in Japan or an apartment in Japan. And then he walks over to Kachan, because she's currently over at his house or his apartment, and he asks, "Do you want to live with me?" And she starts stuttering and goes, "Yeah, sure." And then he really understands her feelings because he's not a dunce. And he says, "Do you want to go out later?" And without hesitation or stuttering, she goes, "Yes." So we skip 6 months, and it's the UA entrance exams. The day of the UA entrance exams. And he walks into campus, early, obviously. And everybody's like, "What are you doing here? The exams aren't ready yet." And he walks straight up to Principal Nezu's office without anybody telling him the directions. He knocks politely on Principal Nezu's office door, and Nezu says, "Come in." He walks in and he bows respectfully and says, "Nezu," and he's obviously talking in Japanese because they have to prepare. And he says, "Principal Nezu, I respectfully ask if you can tell me what my score is after I'm done with the exams." And he's a little confused. He asks why. And then All Might knocks on the door politely. Principal Nezu says, "Can it wait?" And All Might goes, "No, there's someone I want you to meet in your office." And Nezu's confused, and he goes, "Then please come in." All Might walks in and says, "This is the singer I've told you about a year ago." Nezu's eyes widen and goes, "Okay, I'll think about it. I'll tell you after the exam if I'll give you your score or not." And Deku goes, "Thank you, sir," and walks out. And Nezu looks at All Might and says, "He's a lot different than what you told me he was like." And All Might says, that's him when he's respectful. But when he's chill and near his apparently now girlfriend, because I followed on social media, when he's around his girlfriend, he's just a cool guy, and he's honestly going to make a great hero. Yes, Fluffy Butt. Fluffy Butt's is one of my cats. That's his nickname. What do you want, Jack? Just, hi, I love you too, boo-boos. It's freaking annoying me. He annoys me while I'm outside. But, later, Kachan shows up, and Izuku greets her, and they walk into the written exam area. And Izuku currently has a hoodie on, so no one recognizes him. And he's posted on his public social media, his Twitter, his Instagram, his Snapchat, all that, his hero costume. And it's going to be his band costume too. The jeans with the ripped hood on, and the face showing. His true face showing. And if anybody knows Batman, his hero name is going to be called Two-Face. So, he aces the written exam. Kachan aces the written exam. And now it's time for the practical exam. And instead of going into the gym clothes that were provided and they requested in, he goes in his hero costume with his true face on. And Nezu's looking at this person and goes, "Who the hell is that?" And All Might clicks a button and the video plays on one of the old monitors in the room. And Nezu goes, "Oh, him." So, by the time the zero pointer shows up, which is 5 minutes before the end of the test, Izuku has crushed All Might's villain score by 100. The doors start opening, and all of a sudden they see what looks like a push bar? Not a push bar. A piston appear in the middle of the doors, made out of light, and shove it open. And then they see this hooded man with a hoodie on run through and start with bare fists punching through robots. Because he's using it like beast magic. He's using light magic like beast magic. Mythic beast magic, sorry. With the claws and all that. So, while he's ripping apart robots, All Might, Aizawa, Midnight, Cementos, Vlad all say at exact same time, he's like a wild beast. And Nezu is just looking at him intently, thinking of where he's seen that ability before. And then at the end of the test, after he's completely ripped apart the zero pointer, so no one got stuck underneath the rubble, and none of that happened. He ripped it apart. He walks out And without anybody telling him where to go, he walks straight to Principal Nezu, who's currently still in the observation room. They hear a knock at the door, and Nezu says, "Come in," and he walks in, bows, and greets all the heroes. Except for the hero that got a visitor pass to watch it, which was Endeavor. He doesn't greet Endeavor, and Endeavor starts getting angry. And he starts immediately talking to Nezu. And he says, "Nezu, so what is my score?" And Nezu says, "You don't need a score, you pass. And for your other request that you emailed me about," and Izuku says, "You just need to say a yes or no about it." He goes, "Sure." So later that night, everybody in Japan and around UA gets a email in their uh, inbox, and it says, "Concert tomorrow